Hey guys, welcome to the Recreational Bodybuilding Podcast. This is episode 5. Unfortunately, we're not joined by Mr. Jack Rayner today. He sends his apologies, but instead we have Dan Meek from Biceps and Banter alongside Mike Harrison and Joe Kearney, I believe. Kearney?
Yeah, Carney.
Carney,
I
wow.
said that as well. I was like, surely it's Kearney. And she's like, no, it's Carney. Or something.
Ah.
I might have even got that wrong, to be fair. We just call her JoJo, so we don't have to worry about that at the moment.
That makes it easier. Yeah.
Yeah, Jack's not got the coronavirus, is he? He's not like, do you know what I mean? He's not,
No, I'm hoping not. No,
yeah.
I think his shows have been cancelled, so that's sort of thrown him off quite a lot as well.
Oh,
Um,
he's got Krispy Kreme ordering probably.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? The bodybuilding world's been thrown into disarray with that news, hasn't it? All the shows have been cancelled.
I am just so glad I'm not someone who competes, because something like that, having
Mm,
just like one show cancelled, would have thrown everything out of the works for me. I don't
yeah.
know if I could handle sort of getting to that level of leanness so far, and then just someone be like, "Yep, nope, sorry, no show here."
Yeah.
But
It's kind
again,
of like maybe you should book a couple of photo shoots or something. That's probably the best you can hope for,
yeah,
I suppose.
that's all you can do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you want to maybe introduce yourself, Dan, to the people who don't know you?
Oh, probably everyone who doesn't know me, to be fair. No one knows me, quite rightly. Yeah, I suppose I've been an online nutrition and training coach now for, I don't even know, 5 years, 6 years, something like that. I was doing it before it got popular. I can remember I used to work. Um, I used to work at Hull City. I used to be a sports scientist working in football. My job basically revolved around, I suppose, analyzing a lot of the physical data that we used to collect on a daily basis, alongside obviously nutritional interventions and stuff, as well as a bit of helping out in the gym. Um, and I'd always wanted to do that ever since I was younger. And then I decided just to quit it because I couldn't hack being told what to do um, by managers and stuff, football managers that is, who didn't really know what they were doing, and it was just a bit like, what am I doing here? Like, I can't impact anything, and I wanted to then go into doing PT. So I moved to London and worked at Third Space and did in-person PT for about 2 years. While doing that, alongside it, did the online stuff. I think my first client I charged 30 quid a month or something like that at the time. That was like the going rate. And I remember I had people even at £60 a month when I put prices up there, like, oh, it's a bit too much. And I was just like, wow, looking back now, it's crazy to think. But yes, I've been doing it now for the last sort of 5 years. And the last two of those, or 18 months of those, has been with Mike as Biceps and Banter. And then Jojo has just joined us a couple of months ago. She came on board. Yeah, we're just trying to take things slowly as we grow, I suppose. But yeah, we've been around the block, I suppose you could say, in terms of the fitness world.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, and this is one of the big reasons why I sort of asked you to come on, is one thing that I love about what you guys do at Biceps and Banter is you just filter out all the bullshit that you
Mm.
see in the fitness industry, and you make things so simple, digestible for anyone who wants to get in really good shape to focus on sort of those big rocks. Something that I'm actually trying to do here with sort of this podcast as well. But I think something that you do, which definitely lacks on this, is the banter side of things, like, and just how fun you sort of make all of that, and I think you provide content that not only actually helps people, but is actually entertaining as well, which I think for a lot of people is actually really hard to find in sort of this industry. The podcast in particular, I was listening to the first few episodes,
Mm.
and the topics where you were just talking about, I think the first one was talking about a guy with like a huge thumb,
Yeah.
and on one of them, and then the other one was like some guy with like a super long foreskin and stuff. Like, it was like one of the only podcasts where like it didn't help me at all from a fitness perspective, those two, but from a comical perspective, it just had me on the floor.
Yeah, thanks. It's one of those things where I think sometimes we want it to come across as though we we are having a laugh, because we are. That's number one, is that we do that, and we've always wanted to do that. But I think, as I'm sure we'll probably get onto, is the fitness industry is far too serious. It's just like it's really not, in the grand scheme of things, as we are supposed to find out right now, it's not that important. in the grand scheme of things. And sometimes the way people talk about it, it's like it's life or death. And bodybuilders at the highest level, some of the stuff they post, it's a bit like, okay, and they're appealing to their market, and that's great. But there's also a huge market they're not appealing to that find it also quite amusing. So it's just about knowing your audience and your niche, I suppose. And the biggest thing that me and Mike have said throughout, I suppose, going our own way and doing our own thing, is that we were always going to be ourselves, and we were never going to let anyone say to us that we couldn't say that or we couldn't do that. We make jokes all the time because we do that on a daily basis. Like, I think a lot of people comment on some of our videos and our content, and they kind of just say, "Oh, that must take you ages to put together." And we're like, without sounding like arrogant in any way or anything, it's like, no, we just turn the camera on and just press record. Like, all our videos are done in like one take. It's not like we sit there with a script. Like, it is literally just, we're lucky that we've found each other, we bounce off each other, and we have the same sense of humor, and we're not afraid to offend people. I think people are too afraid to offend people. Like, we know that we probably offend some elite level bodybuilders. We know we have. We've put videos out before, and we've had backlash from people, and we're like, well, that's fine, because the people that don't like it are never going to be our clients. They're never going to come to us for help, because they have a different way of viewing all this sort of stuff. And for us, it's just about making fitness extremely, extremely fun, but also getting the serious results that come with it. I think that's the biggest thing for us. Is I think there's a lot of people out there who do one or the other very well. I think you've got someone maybe like James Smith, who, again, very good with the comical side of taking the mick and being somewhat offensive. But when you look at the results that some of his members get and stuff, they're good. Like, without a doubt, they are. Not gonna say they're not, but compared to the results we get with our clients, I would say, well, they don't even come close. And likewise, you see a lot of bodybuilders who get amazing results that are as good as the sort of results we get, but our clients have a lot more fun getting them, I would suggest. So it's kind of like trying to find that niche, really, and hopefully we manage to appeal to our niche quite well.
For sure. And what were the frustrations that you tended to see, or some of the examples that you saw that sort of made you want to take Biceps and Banter down that route?
I think me and Mike, we're always every day we'd text each other something stupid that we've seen. I'm not even joking. Like, we'll screenshot something, we'll send it, and be like, look at this, like, look at this, look at this. And we just got sick and tired of people coming to us and asking questions about it. And it was like, right, let's just make a video about it, rather than having to answer these questions 3 or 4 times. And we still get the same questions now, to be fair, even though we make the content. But the thing that we hate the most is people, influencers, whoever it is in fitness, profiting from other people's lack of knowledge or understanding. That is my biggest bugbear, because it's one thing that I hate. It's like when I go to a mechanic and I need to get my car fixed. He goes, yeah, that's £1,000. I go, is it though? I don't know. I've got no idea. I wish there was someone, maybe there is, I should probably look for him on Instagram, who's dispelling all these myths. But it's under the hood, you can't really see it, right? And it's the same with fitness. Is a lot of people are going to these fitness people and they're being charged £600-700 up front for a 3-month meal plan and getting ripped off because they're just getting chicken, rice and broccoli. And we're like, that's not okay for someone to do that. They are not, when they're signing up for that, they don't know what they're getting. And that, combined with such a poor standard, I think, in the industry, it was kind of like, well, if we don't kind of try and go about it this way, who's going to do that? And obviously other people do it as well. But I think the thing that we can back it up with now is the results that we get, because a lot of the time before, you'd get people who'd say, oh yeah, that's great for like that level though. That's great if you don't want to lose like 10 kilos and not be really fat and just get into like a size, large pair of trousers or whatever. That's okay. But it wouldn't work for us because we're special. And we're like, no, you're not. Like, it's just you just do it for longer. Mm-hmm. And, we kind of do the photo shoots for our clients. That's like our thing at the moment. We're trying to show everyday people that, do you know what? You can diet down for a photo shoot. You can look like a bodybuilder. You can have that physique without having to go down the boring route of seeing all the hardcore stuff you see. So, a lot of my clients, when they come to me, they're training 5-6 times a week. I'm like, you don't need to if you don't want to. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah, do it if you want to, carry on, but you don't have to. And talking to them about, I suppose, volume over the week and talking about calories, and they just assume that there's these good and bad foods. So seeing all that out there and seeing people profit from people's lack of knowledge, understanding was the catalyst for us to go, no, we need to get this information out there and show people. And I think the first port of call for us was to go, right, well, we're in shape, we can do photo shoots and we eat ice cream every day. So we'll show people that it's possible. And by being quite open about what we do on a daily basis and calling all this stuff out, and doing the two combined, it kind of helps. If you just did one or the other, I don't think it really works. You have to call out the shit and go, yeah, but look, I'm eating ice cream and I've got a six pack. So surely it's not ice cream then, is it? And people start thinking then actually maybe there is something in this. And then they follow you for a while, and all these other people, they get sign-ups, I imagine, for their programs quite quickly, because someone looks at their physique and go, oh, they must know what they're doing. Whereas a lot of our clients, you speak to them like, oh, I followed you for like a year and I just thought, now's the time to dive in. It's like, yeah, because they need to digest all the information almost and believe it for quite a while before they'll jump in. So for us, it was wanting to show people that it is actually quite simple, and to believe us, because we get these results of people doing exactly the same thing that we're preaching on our content, rather than doing that and then hiding it from people. Like, people, that's the other thing people do that really, really annoys me, is they hide this magic trick that they've got. It's like, I'm not telling you have to sign up as a client. It's like, no, that's not how it works. It's nothing magic. So it's from that, really, I suppose.
Yeah. No, that's really good. And I've seen some of the results that you get clients, like you've taken clients to stage,
Yeah.
clients who are winning shows or placed really well at least, and some of the photo shoots, like you get people really lean. So I guess one question I'd have is, when you take on a new client, where do you sort of make sure your priorities are when sort of communicating to them?
The first thing is, everyone obviously is so individual from a routine, from a priorities, from a scheduling point of view, that you have to understand that first. Like, a lot of our clients don't come to us initially. Well, they do a bit more now, obviously, because of the results we get, but they didn't initially come to us like, I want to do a photo shoot. It was more a case of they would lose weight and then go, actually, this is quite easy. Like, this isn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. And they just keep going. And then we propose the idea of a photo shoot and they go, yeah, actually, I want to do that. And they feel like they have the confidence to achieve it. And I think for us, it's, we don't take on a huge number of clients. Like, I see some people take on hundreds of clients, and I just don't understand how they can possibly do that, because there's so much time involved at that, in that first initial sort of 2 or 3 weeks of getting to know someone, of what their schedule looks like and their routine, to know how things are going to work. And as much as everyone is unique in that sense, everyone is also very much the same in that the basics apply to everyone. Like, you're going to have to eat less food. You're going to have to make sure you increase your veg. You're going to so from an actual nutritional point of view, there's not huge amounts that we do differently with many people. From a basics point of view, it's more how you fit that in around everything else they're doing. And I think the thing that surprises most people when they start with us is that they clearly have their plan that's theirs. Like, they look at it and go, well, yeah, I told Dan I couldn't train on a Saturday or a Sunday, or I told him that I could only do 3 a week. I told him I didn't like back squats. I told him that I had a bad back, and he's clearly catered for it in his program. Whereas a lot of people previously have had coaches and it's like the same plan given to every single person. And, we ask a lot of questions when people sign up, so that we can do that for them. And they get that level of attention and detail, so that within 4 weeks, they're like, oh, hang on a minute. Like, I can see that this is going to work for me. And then obviously, as the weeks go on, we do, much like I suppose any good coach does nowadays, we do video or phone check-ins with people, because you can get a lot more information out of people, and constantly tweet things. No better time to show that than now, kind of thing, I suppose, is that, having to write up a lot of home workouts, and it's not just like everyone gets the same one, because some people have got TRXs, some people have got weight, some people have got nothing. So it's just listening to them and actually giving a shit. People, like, a lot of people call themselves coaches, but I think as a coach, you have to give a shit. And I think that's where a lot of the differences are, in my opinion, between someone who calls himself an online trainer and an online coach, is that I think I call myself an online coach, because I coach people through life to get into the shape that they want. And I think there's a lot of online PTs out there who see themselves more as like the trainer on the gym floor, which is like, here's your training program, here's a meal plan, speak to you in a bit. And it's like, we kind of need to shift that thinking. It's like, that's not what you're doing. Even PTs on the gym floor, the good ones, are coaches by nature. That's how they go through things. They give their clients challenges to overcome, and they give them obstacles. And it's the same thing with online nutritionists. You're giving people challenges, and you have to listen to them at the right time, and know enough about their life to be able to push them at the right time, but also to give them a bit of leeway at the right time, and when to put the arm around them, when to give them a bollocking. Like, it happens. We're not always going to be like, oh, everything's great. It's like, some people respond well to a bollocking. It's just understanding that, and that happens through understanding their background and their priorities, before just giving them, eat this amount of chicken. It's like, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. It's understanding that stuff first before you know whether you can push someone very hard initially, or whether you need to leave that for a later time period, or whether they need to see results first, or what. There's so many factors that come into it, and it's actually, thinking about it, quite hard to pinpoint what it is, because it's so many things now that we just do without even thinking, that it's hard to know exactly what it is. It's probably all of those tiny things, put together, to be honest.
Mm. Yeah. And how do you sort of react when you'll have a client or anyone sort of come to you and they say, "Oh, I've seen this on Instagram," or "I've seen this new supplement that this person's promoting." How do you sort of deal with those questions?
Usually quite bluntly, to be honest, because we've probably had it before. Or we sort of send them to one of our YouTube videos. Again, that's the benefit of YouTube, is we can kind of go, yeah, watch this video. We did a video on that. We did a video on this. But luckily, a lot of our clients don't do that so much, because, again, like I said before, I think because they followed us for long enough, they kind of know it before they come in, and then they kind of know enough about us and how we work and what we're going to say about things, that by the time they sign up, it's like, I just want results now. They just tell me what to do, and I want the results. They know that they don't need BCAs. They know they don't need intra-workout carbs. They know they don't need all these things to progress. They just want their plan, as it were, and they've probably seen enough to go, right, I'm happy with this and happy to proceed. So we're quite lucky we don't get too many of those questions, but they do crop up, and we just have to, I'm always quite forthright with it and just go, look, I always put it back on them and go, what do you think? What do you think? They go, I think it's bullshit. I'm like, yeah, you'd be right. Like, don't doubt yourself. Like, I think that's a lot of things. People doubt themselves, and they doubt their ability and their confidence because they don't have the knowledge. And I've had clients before message me and go, oh, I saw this, and I just said to myself, what would Dan say? And they're like, yeah, you know what I'm going to say. Like 99% of the time, any supplement you see is going to be crap. That's just the way they are. The 1% chance you ask me, and then I'll give you my opinion, and it might be that it's useful, it might not. But the majority of people that we coach, again, from coaching them, how we coach them, is that they know what those big things are they need to focus on, and they know that they're not going to be found on Instagram, and that they can't be bought on an online shop or whatever. They know that they are literally just themselves doing what they're told to do on a daily basis. They know that there's not really anything else to add to that, because usually they've already tried it, and that's kind of usually how they found us. Is one of their friends has been like, oh, follow these guys because they say don't take what you're taking or whatever. We still get the odd questions sometimes about, like, don't know, fasted cardio or something, and you're like, oh God, have we still not talked about this for a while? And you're like, maybe we should put better content about this. And then you'll see one of us post a video about it, and it'll be like an older video, and you'll be like, so if you ever see that, that's why. Going forward. So yeah, it's but luckily we've got all the content backed up, so it's kind of easy just to send people that way as well, if we want to give them a sort of a more light-hearted view of it rather than a serious answer.
Yeah. And do you think people are getting more knowledgeable now about, and sort of quick to catch on to some of the bullshit that they tend to see in the industry as a result of, I guess, social media and all the information that's available?
Yeah, I think maybe in our echo chamber, maybe. I think because I'm very good at filtering all my Instagram, I follow quite a few people. I don't have mass amounts of people that I follow for that reason. I just can't be asked to see it. And obviously the clients I talk to and the consultations I have, most people seem clued up on it. But then I also go out occasionally and mingle with the public, not right now, but occasionally. And I speak to people and speak to other trainers at the gym I train at, and they have their clients who have asked them a question, and they'll be like, can you believe they asked the question? And I'm just like, yeah, wow, people really don't know this stuff. And I think it's easy with social media to look at your own feed and your friends of friends and go, oh yeah, everyone kind of seems on the ball with it. They kind of seem to get it. But the amount of people I speak to, and I go, oh, have you heard of, James Smith or whatever? Someone like that, for example. They're like, no. I go, oh, you heard Joe Wicks? Yeah, I heard Joe Wicks. Yeah. And it's just that whole thing of like, well, actually, they're both quite big, but actually James Smith isn't as big as we think he is, or he isn't reaching people as much as we think he is. And I think he's obviously been huge in that. I think he's got like has he got 500,000 followers?
Something like that, yeah. Last
He's
time I
doing
checked.
well. He's doing well, but I think Joe Wicks is like 4 million. I think something stupid, and it's just that next level where people aren't really clued up to that sort of level. Like I still hear people in the gym talking about cutting out bread and carbs and I still hear it on a daily basis, but at the same time, they're also not the niche that I'm going for. So I kind of think actually it's not as bad. But I think the niche that maybe you're talking about, where it's the people who are looking for maybe the supplements, the extra, fasted cardio, all those little extra things that we talk about a lot. I think they are slowly wising up to it, because I think it's easier to tag those people in something that maybe someone like Brad Schoenfeld's posted, or James Krieger, or, someone like that. It's easy to tag someone in now, whereas before it would have just been a bit hearsay, and now it's kind of a bit more, you can see it there. It's a study, it's there in black and white, and it's interesting. But then, to finish on that, I'm also a part of a Facebook group that you might be a part of called Gym Outcasts. And it's just like, oh my God, there's like 30,000 people in there. And obviously they're all big into the gym. And some of the questions are just very basic. And it's just like, do people still not know this? and I don't ever comment or ever get involved in anything, because it's not even worth it, because they just can't see it. They're just so intent on that. And there's a lot of people who use drugs and stuff in there, whatever. And some of the bits I don't know, but they're asking questions that, like, me and you would be like, really? People still talking about BCAs? Really? Like, that's the thing? And, what was it the other day I saw? I think it was like good carbs. It's like, good carbs. But yeah, it's interesting. It really is interesting. But I've given up now trying to correct people who are just wrong, because they will not change their mind there and then. They have to follow someone. They have to follow a decent amount of work for a long period of time till it sinks in. Like, just arguing with them, it just doesn't work, because then the more you argue, the more they're so convinced that they're right, because they must be right? There's no way they could be wrong. So that's kind of why with our content now, we don't really try and, in the comments and stuff, we don't bother trying to go, oh no, you're wrong. It's just like, oh, whatever, mate. Of course, just laughing face and move on, because it's just a waste of time otherwise.
Yeah. And I do find that, like you said, in sort of, I guess, the lifting and more, I guess, bodybuilding centric community, we've caught on to a lot of sort of maybe some of the supplements like BCAs. I think we're catching on with fasted cardio. I think some of those things that we believed a while ago, we're very much on the ball with now. But then equally, I don't know if you find this, we still jump on new trends as well, I think, a bit quickly. I think one example, just because I was listening to a podcast on it earlier today, is around like heart rate variability and sort of the importance of that with regards to stress and recovery as well. Do you find that there are sort of new things cropping up over the past like year or so that I guess people are clutching onto a bit too quickly?
Yeah, I think without a doubt there is. And I think that the problem you've got is that if you throw these ideas into a group of people who are willing to do anything to gain a 0.1% advantage, you're going to get a lot of sheep who are just following the crowd. And often the people that talk about this sort of thing are at the level where 0.1% of a difference may help, and the placebo effect may help. Problem is, you've then got people who think that they're at that level, and they're definitely not. Doing it thinking that they're gonna transform their physique, and the reality is they just don't train hard enough. And you're kind of like, come on, like, it's just, there's no point. And interestingly, on the heart rate variability, like, again, 5 years ago, working at Hull City, like we had to do like a full literature review of it, and look at it with the players, because obviously, high level athletes and stuff, it was like, do we look at it? And the research just wasn't there. Like, high level football, they're prepared to do anything to get a 0.1%. Again, and I think that also helped me as well, coming from that background, because they're another group of people who are looking for a 0.1% advantage. But yeah, I see that what they eat for dinner, I'm like, well, it doesn't really matter whether you check the heart rate variability, mate. They're eating beans on toast for dinner. Like, it really is fascinating to come, for me, that really helped coming from a really high performance elite sort of field like that, because it makes you realize that all these people are trying to do 0.1% things, but unless their hydration's on point, it's pointless worrying about whether they're taking creatine or not at the right times at training, because they're only trained 4 times a week anyway, mate. So regardless, it's, you need it every day probably to get a decent amount in. And also, they're not hydrated and not eating enough carbs, so it's not going to make a difference. And I think transferring that over to the bodybuilding world is vital. It's just these sheep copying the elite level bodybuilders, but they have not got anything in place. The funniest thing that happened, I think, in the last year from the bodybuilding scene for us was watching the reps in reserve and training to failure camps like go head to head. And it was immense, because you had JP, one of the biggest advocates for training to failure, trying reps in reserve. And you just saw all these bodybuilders with all their YouTube channels, all their Instagrams, like go, I'm going to try reps in reserve. I'm trying reps in reserve. And I'm just like sat there like, you're idiots. Like, come on. And me and Mike at that time were loving it because we were sat there going, this is perfect for us because you've got JP, who is one of the most elite level bodybuilders you can get, you know, and trained to failure for his whole life. And he's now gone, oh, I've tried this for like 12 years. Well, I don't know how long it's been, 10, 12 years. Maybe it's worth changing. You know, all these bodybuilders have been training to failure for like a year going, oh, I'm going to change reps in reserve. And it's like, no, you don't get it. Like, you need to see the bigger picture here. And they can't separate themselves from the people that they follow. They can't see that they've got more experience and more knowledge, and they don't see that they need to just put in time under the bar. And we talked about it from our point of view, and we sort of said, well, we're neither camp. We're neither reps in reserve or training to failure. And the reason for that is that our clients still do not know where failure is. They don't know. They've never trained that hard. They've never been pushed that hard, and training on their own, they're never going to either. So we always just say train to failure. We always go, yeah, push as hard as close as you can to failure, because they might get to 2 or 3 reps in reserve if they do that. And we know that, and we accept that. And then they come to like a training workshop we put on, and then they train to failure. And then they're like, okay, I've been training wrong then. Like, yeah, now you're going to see your gains go up another level now. Now we can start talking about reps in reserve and all this sort of stuff. But personally, I just think that there's too much made of even things like that. And I know, it's good job Jack's not here because he'd be slagging me off right now. But I know that Jack's big on reps in reserve. I know that some people are really, really big on it. And for us, it's just like such a non-subject. It's just for me, I think it's a minutiae detail for the majority of people that the majority of us work with. If you're working with bodybuilders, 100%, I would probably go more in reps in reserve than training to failure. But for my niche and the niches below, even I'd say not quite down to like anyone who's just looking to lose weight. But majority of people in our niche, I would say majority of the time, they need to learn to get closer to failure than they do to worry about reps in reserve. I think those that obviously are even further down the line, that they just need to move, right? I don't think either is an issue. And I think there's also an element of confusing people with it that I wouldn't bother getting into. I think a lot of my clients they haven't got the headspace for it. They're all busy people. They've got busy jobs. They're not trainers. They don't care for it. So that has been one of the best things in the last year to see that was because then they all changed back. Because then JP changed back after like 4 weeks or something. And he just didn't enjoy training that way. And he didn't even say it doesn't work. He just said, I don't enjoy training this way. I can't do it. I can't leave any reps in reserve. I need to go all at it. And then all the people that started that way they then copied him again. And I was just sat there. It was just for us. It was just class. It was just brilliant. I think we did a few YouTube videos on it, and of course we got backlash. But it's just that's the biggest thing in the bodybuilding world is seeing the sheep and you can just tell who they follow on Instagram because it's like watching the same thing. And there's obviously the muscle mentors as well that we're quite friendly with. Like we speak to Cal and Luke quite regularly, and speaking to them, it's like they're just like it's painful sometimes when they see some of people copying them because they're like, yeah, but we know what we're doing. We're at this top level, and it's like, you've been training 6 months. Why do you need to worry about this? And it's just fascinating seeing all these different groups of people because we feel like we sit kind of away from them because we don't want to train bodybuilders. We train a couple of people. Like I've taken, one of my bikini girls won national championship, pro card, whatever. But I don't ever promote that because I don't really want to work with bodybuilders. There's far better people to work with for that. So it's quite nice to sit back and see the dynamic that's happening at that sort of level. And almost to try and for our clients and for people that follow us to highlight aspects of it that are useful, but also the bits that they will not need to worry about. And people think that we're calling it out as if it's bullshit. And it's not, but it is to our niche. It is a bullshit. It's no point. But to their niche, there's an element of it that may help. And when you actually get to know these people, you understand that even they know that. But the arguments you get between the camps is fascinating because it's like, everyone's trying to find the 0.1%, and we're just down here trying to help people get to the 80%. Mm-hmm. We're just laughing at them going, well, why are people worried about it? People don't seem to, at that level, don't understand. No, it's not even at that level. Those people at that top level do understand niches, but the people that are copying them don't understand niches. They don't get that you're trying to talk to a certain type of person, and that we don't care if the top level bodybuilders, people who want to be like top level bodybuilders, don't like us, don't care. Like, we're not trying to reach them. So yeah, that was my favorite thing, I think, of last year, seeing that.
Yeah, and I'll admit that I was in the same camp as Jack around the RAR training. And I think admittedly, like it's easy to sort of when you're surrounded by those people who are trained the same way as you, sort of putting myself in the shoes of those people, it's very easy to sort of clutch on to some sort of belief. And like it's very like I'll admit, like I had times where I've seen the people like training or like absolute failure and saying like this is the only way to train and stuff like that, and I was like, and I'd like roll my eyes and like
Mm.
like sniggers like, oh, they don't know what they're talking about and stuff like that. And it's like I think even over the past 12 months, it's like when you really understand some of the reasons why people do what they do, you you don't feel the need to sort of be in one camp or the other, I think. And it's I think definitely over the past few months I've sort of been a bit more open minded around people who train all the way to failure every single session and people
Mm.
who are sort of more reps in reserve. And it's much of a muchness, right? Like everyone's just trying to make gains. It doesn't like there's so
Yeah,
much there's so much hatred and sort of like people like it's like people slapped your mother if they say they train to failure or they don't like the fact that you train reps in reserve. It's
yeah. It's. I think the thing with it is, I think going back to what you, I think the original question was is also like in terms of highlighting this to people. It's like when people say it's the only way to train, it's like you can't say that. You just can't say it because it's not, is it? It's when people say it's the way. It's like I think when JP was doing it, he was like, "Oh, it's the way I prefer to train." I was like, "That's fine. You crack on.
exactly.
You go with it. That's fine. If it's way you prefer." But that's where with us, like I've had clients before, and they go, oh, "Can I try reps in reserve?" And of course you can. 100%. Again, it's the art of a good coach. If you want to do it, let you do it. If people want to go to failure, they go to failure. And it's I just find it fascinating that the biggest way to spot someone, in my opinion, who doesn't know what they're talking about is when they say things like it's the only way to train or it's the only way to lose weight or it's the only way to diet, except for someone who says calorie deficit, the only way to lose weight. But you know what I mean? If they're sort of using their diet as a way, that's the only way to lose weight, or, you know, it's that kind of way of thinking. It's like, you don't know what you're talking about. Because if you did, you'd know that that's not true. Because I know that if someone ate chicken, broccoli and rice every single day, that they could well lose weight. I also know it's not the only way to lose weight. And I also know that flexible dieting isn't the only way to lose weight. It's just the way that I show my clients how to lose weight because it's easy. I have some clients who I'm like, you can't be flexible because you would just eat biscuits all day. Like there's elements to that, which is why a lot of the content we do is highlighting these myths, because the myths are people going, oh, it's the only way. Oh, fasted cardio burns more fat. It doesn't burn more fat. Do it if you want to do it. But at the end of the day, it doesn't burn more. Oh no, it does. It burns more fat. I'm like, yeah, it might burn more fat in that session or that element of it. But by the end of the day, you're in the same and all that. And and they're just not smart enough to see it. So the kind of arguing with it is pointless. If they have that way of thinking, it's the only way to do this, the only way to do that. There's no point arguing with them. Um, it's when they pass it on to their clients. That's when it gets annoying, because it's like, no, that's just what you want to do. You want to get up at 4 a.m. and do cardio. That doesn't mean everyone else has to, but then all their clients are doing it, and it's, that's when it gets messy. But that's certainly a way to spot someone who probably doesn't know what they're talking about.
Yeah. And is there any sort of other clues to sort of identify someone who, even just any bullshit, I guess, in the industry, um, any other clues to sort
Um,
of, for someone who wants to filter all that stuff out?
this is a sweeping generalization, so we can't take and too many of these as like gospel. There's always going to be outliers to this, but there's a few of them. One of them is people that post their own physique all the fucking time. Annoys me. It annoys me. It's like, why don't you post about your clients or post about something else or keep your clothes on, or I don't know. That goes to men and women, to be fair. I think there's a real red flag is if people don't talk about their clients or how happy their clients are, how happy or how good their results are, but not from a physique point of view, as in like a transformation, because I've seen lots of people transform, but then I've also seen the after picture and it's not pretty. But more about, how they're feeling about coaching, how mentally they are, and seeing some video of them saying how good they're feeling, or a text message screenshot or whatever, that sort of thing helps. But from a purely, I suppose, knowledge base, I think anyone who professes to have the way to lose weight or the only way, that's that's a red flag. And the other one is, I've got a few friends that are like, not like this, but they have this. So I don't want to be too harsh, but anyone who pushes supplements and their own code for the supplements, it's like, come on. Like, there are some people out there who, you know, you've got discount codes for things and it's like, oh, it might be for some whey protein or for some creatine. That's fine. Like, crack on 100%. If people are starting to push supplements that are a bit questionable and they're like, use my code, it's like, for us, that we just hate that. Right? That's our big thing. That's the kind of people we go after, because again, they're profiting from someone else buying something that is useless. It might as well just be powdered sugar. Like, there's nothing in it. So there's that. But obviously there are also people out there who like are working with reputable companies that are like, look, you can get 30% off if you use my code and it's for whey protein. I'm cool with that. Whey protein works. It's fine. Any supplements that work, it's the dodgy stuff. And, you know, one of our pet peeves is like the YouTube review of the product, and it's like, oh, it's amazing, it's amazing, it's amazing. It's like, oh, here you go, you can get the link below. It's in the description. Get it. Like, and it's like, really? Like, do we have to be that obvious about it? And clothing, I don't mind, because clothes are clothes, right? If you like the clothes, you buy them. That's cool. I'm not bothered about that. It's stuff like that that doesn't work. And like, what else is there out there? One I saw the other day, like genetic testing. Big red flag. Someone doesn't know what they're talking about. Like, I saw a post pop up and it was like, get your genetic test done for £100. And it was like, I can then specifically bespoke design a training plan built for your genetics. I'm like, well, you can't though, can you? But to read that, if you had a bit of money and you're like, oh, that sounds great. It was all of a sudden backed by science and all this, because it sounds sciencey genetics, but we both know it's fucking pointless. And it doesn't tell you anything. So that sort of stuff kind of bugs us a little bit. But I don't really follow many people like that anymore, because it just does my head in. And I'd be on there slating people all day, every day, and I wouldn't get any work done. But that's one thing. And then the other thing is, well, obviously at the moment it doesn't really apply, but people that just, the thing that annoys me is people just post their own workouts all the time. I don't get it. I don't get what someone's supposed to take from watching your Instagram video of your session, other than if you're explaining about your session, like, this is what I did and this is how I could feel. It's the ones, you know, like the Instagram babes that put up their workout and they're like, try this back workout. It's like, well, what? They're going to do that for 12 weeks though. And how are they going to progress? Like, and why is everything 4 sets of 12? And it's like, why are we doing a back day? You know, like 20 sets on back. It's that sort of stuff annoys me as well. Probably a sign someone doesn't really, I'll say know what they're doing, but it's just a bit basic, isn't it? It's a bit basic bitch, that, for me. It's like, come on, like, if you're going to provide people information, you should be saying, this is a good workout to do for 12 weeks. This is how you're going to progress it. This is what to look out for. Don't just change your workout the next day. But they almost do it as in like, try this today, try this today. And it's like, no, don't just change every day. Like, you're supposed to have a plan that you stick to. So that sort of stuff, only because that's what I see at the moment, to be fair. I'd probably start unfollowing some of them as well, but I'm sure there's far worse out there, to be honest. You probably might know more than me. I don't know.
No, I try to filter out. I actually try not to go on social media too much anymore. It's
painful, isn't it?
Yeah. I guess sort of moving on, obviously we've got ways to like spot the bullshit. When I guess something relatively new sort of comes out, whether it's like a new way of training, a new supplement, or something that's sort of, I guess, unheard of, what do you require? Sort of what's your filter to then determine whether it's something that's worth doing, either with yourself or with clients, or basically saying, nah, it's bullshit. Sort of what needs to happen for it to be legit?
I think 95% of the time I'll instantly just go bullshit, pretty much instantly. The reason for that is because everything that you need to get into shape is here now. Everything people got in shape for Olympia 30 years ago. Like, there's nothing special that's come out. Everything you ever needed was right there. So that's why I'm always like 95% bullshit. And then the other 5% is, okay, let's see if there's any research on it, see if there's any science behind it, which there never usually is, because it's brand new. And usually with these things, they're brought out and then the research comes out to go, right, let's look into that. Let's see if it's useful. Power plates being a prime example, they were on the market long before it was ever shown they were useless or didn't really do anything. And you now don't see them in gyms, to be fair, which is pretty handy. So the science always takes longer to catch up. And then comes the guy in my podcast with Tom. We then have the how does it look test. If it looks stupid, it probably is. Like there's that element to it where it's like, you know, it's straight off the bat, just looks a bit weird. If it's a new exercise or something, it looks a bit weird. You're like, nah, just don't need to do it. But yeah, the majority of the time it is something that is useless. I'm trying to think of a recent example of something that's actually been useful. I think I'll tell you something that's been quite recent actually. It's been like some exercises that I suppose in the most recent years that have come out is more like the B stance kind of movements that people do, like where they have like the staggered split stance position and they kind of make it a single leg movement. That's something that I think if you were to look at, you think someone's doing, you're like, oh, they're doing it wrong. Like it doesn't look right. But actually when you do it and you work it out and you look at what the strength coaches are doing, it actually makes sense, that kind of thing. But yeah, the majority of any new products that you can buy, bullshit, majority of them, because there's so many things now that people are looking for, and people are looking for that shortcut that companies are just prepared to put anything to market, and they know people are going to buy it. It's like the Theraguns. It's like, I saw that the other day and I was just like, people are spending £300 to £500 on a machine that pounds your body. And I'm like, looking at it like, okay, is there any research on it? No. Like, it just feels good when you do it. Mike, funny enough, Mike actually had one. I think someone he knew had one, so he borrowed it. And I'm not like, I was using it. I was like, yeah, it feels nice. I was like, I'm not disputing that fact. It feels nice. But you go on their website and it's like, yeah, it can help with joint realignment. I'm like, huh? Joint realignment? And then other stuff was on there was like improving, reducing DOMs, improving flexibility. I'm like, no, there's no way that happens. There's no way that happens. It's not anything. And I think I put on my Instagram story, like, if you saw someone banging their muscle with a hammer, you'd think they were crazy. But yet that seems okay. And it's also that I've seen like massage therapists like using it on people. I'm like, no, they're paying for you to use your skill to do that. And yeah, it's just baffling that people, and I get it, people are going to go for it because I'll pay that bit of money. I'll get that short-term relief. That's the issue. It's not that I need to stretch more, do more mobility and actually put some effort into it and work hard. I just haven't needed this trick. They buy the trick. It feels good because it kind of does feel good. It feels quite nice. But then within 30 minutes, it's made no difference to the musculature, so it's pointless. It doesn't change anything. And I just think human beings just love a fad. They love a trick. And I think a lot of our clients now come to us and they've spent thousands of pounds on shit, and they kind of come to us and they kind of ask about how much coaching is, and they kind of look at, oh, that's pretty reasonable actually. Because I'm like, yeah, compared to the shit you spent before, I was like, this is actually going to work. And, you know, the amount of money people spend on this stuff, it's frightening. But I'm a firm believer that you have to spend the money on it sometimes. You have to do it, like, because we've tried so many times to dissuade people from doing it or whatever, and they just do it anyway. And they learn, they've wasted their money, they learn to do anything. And then it's like, it's easier for us to go, right, now you're coachable because you've tried all that shit. And it's sometimes you have to let people do it, which is why it's really hard sometimes to convince people otherwise. They have to take BCAs for a year until they realize actually they were just eating enough protein, so don't worry about it. And then when they work out how much money they've spent on them, they fucking want to kill themselves. But you know, it is what it is. It's just people wanting that shortcut, and eventually they realize that there isn't one. With a lot of the stuff you see, it's the 5% of stuff that is actually useful for me is usually like an exercise or like something to do with training. It's very rarely a nutrition or a supplement or a product or a supplement. It's usually a training thing that's like, actually that's different. I've not seen that before. It's good. Like I suppose cuffs and bands, for example, recently is another one. It's like, okay, I can see the application. For our clients, no. But I get it. So that's another hard one is when clients ask about that. I'm like, well, you're not that level yet. Like, you don't really need to worry about that. You're not doing your delts 3-4 times a week. Like, you just need to lose 20 kilos, mate. Like, let's just get out first, and then we can talk about it. So that's probably been one of the most recent things as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, that's really good, and I think sort of touching on making those mistakes, I think it's something that we've all done when we first got started.
And that's the thing, is like that's where it comes from for us. Is we've done
Yeah,
it. Like, I've spent that money. I've bought lean whey. Like I bought a lean whey. I bought a whey protein that was, I think it was per scoop like 20 grams of protein, 10 grams of carbs, and then had added CLA and green tea in it. And I was like, I should have just had whey. Looking back now, I'd be like, I'll just have whey protein, mate, 'cause there's less calories in it. Like, but at the time, you want the lean gains, or you don't want to, all that. We've all fallen for it, and that's why I think it comes from.
yeah,
Is that I've bought BCAs, I've taken them, I've done it, I've done that intra workout, I've taken the carbs, I know, and because I wanted it so badly, and it's only for educating yourself through that I hope that people then don't have to make the same mistakes for as long as I did. I think they're still going to do it, just maybe not for as long and spend as much money on it. But yeah, it's certainly where it comes from.
yeah. No, absolutely. I can think of many mistakes that I made in my first few years. I think supplement wise, I can't remember the name of it. It was like Total 90, I think was a protein brand. It was like a huge, you used to get it off eBay, it was like a huge jug, like 5 kilogram thing
Yeah,
of protein. I got the mass gainer. And I remember looking back, and it was like per scoop or per serving, it was like 60 grams of sugar, and it was just
yeah.
like horrible. And I took it for like 3 weeks, and then I had to go get fillings because of the amount of sugar that was just in it. And I remember taking it after like a workout in the morning and just threw up on my way to like college or something. I was just like, oh my god. Just looking
Yeah,
back, like you just can't help but laugh at some of the mistakes you make. But yeah, absolutely right. Like I guess likes of yourself go through those, so you've been through it, so hopefully other people don't have to, right?
yeah, and it's also got. I think the other thing we've done and been through that is the hardcore mentality.
Mm.
With the eating the same thing all the time, doing the same thing, and like the whole like no pain no gain and all that shit. And it's just, we've been there, we've had like, Mike's had coaches like that who are just like, yeah, you got to eat chicken, rice and broccoli even in off season, because it's clean, and you got to eat 8 times, and you got to grow. If you want to grow, it's what you got to do. It's that hardcore, because they're doing something that's harder, they think it's better, it makes you more mentally resilient and all that sort of crap. It's like, no, you could have just had a Cadbury's cream egg. Like, don't have the rice. It's far easier in a gaining phase, trust me. But because they're doing it at the hardcore level, I'm nowhere near that level, but I want to get there, so I've got to do that. And it comes back to that whole thing of people not seeing the stage that people are in. That was my frustration looking back as a youngster. I wasted so much time wanting to be like someone else in their physique that I copied them at that time without. I wish someone had just shook me and gone, when they were your size, they just ate everything in sight and trained really, really hard. Do that. I spent far too long worrying about putting on body fat, and I should have just eaten everything. And I think if there's anyone listening to this who is between the age of 18 to 22, 23, do not try and get abs. Just eat shitloads of food and lift really, really heavy weight as much as possible. And you'll thank me when you're 28, 29 and you're cutting for Ibiza, because you'll look really good. Because it's a lot harder to gain muscle as you get older when you have kids involved and shit like that. It's just do it when you're 18 to 23, smash loads of food in, and eat all the chocolate, eat all the crisps, eat everything, get the calories in any way you can, train really hard. And then as you get older, you can start eating more veg. That's what I wish someone had told me. I really do. Like, looking back now, I really overcomplicated it as well. I tried to do everything. I tried to get the perfect split and all the isolations. And I wish I'd have found someone like JP when I was 18, because I'd have just gone, actually, he's someone who does say, look, that's what I'm still doing now. But even when I was a beginner, that's all I got told. Just eat loads of food and train really hard. You can't go wrong with that. And that's why I think comes back to the whole bullshit and the whole supplements and all that sort of stuff. It's like, people were doing this years ago. People got in great shape. Like, there's nothing new that you need to know. It's all there. And I think that's the thing with a lot of my clients is I just get them to lift heavy, as often as they can, eat enough food. And it's really, it's that simple. People just don't believe it. Never mind.
Awesome. No, man, cool. Maybe just to wrap up, I know we're sort of in the climate of coronavirus. A lot of people here in the UK, I know Europe and US gyms are closing.
Yeah.
Here in the UK, I think a lot of us are waiting for the inevitable. I know I'm sort of on a daily basis checking to see if my gym's staying open. What would be really cool, maybe some quick tips for people who are sort of going through maybe self-isolation on how we can continue to stay in shape.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing I think is obviously it depends on how like it lasts and stuff like that. But just remember that, 1 to 2 weeks off the gym, you're not going to lose all your progress. I think that's the biggest thing I've been saying to my clients over the last week is like, look, just calm down. Like it's just a bit longer of a deload. Like let's just see it that way. And all of a sudden you don't panic so much. And then I suppose the next thing is to remember that obviously home workouts are harder to motivate yourself for, I think, for sure. But I think with the thing that we're going through now, it's going to be a necessity. It's not about whether you can get motivated or not. It's like if you want to maintain muscle you've got and you want to be in a good position to go back to the gym when this is over, you're going to have to do some sort of movement. And I think for me, it's a case of keeping your protein as high as physically possible. I actually have just ordered some more whey protein today, which for me is unheard of. I usually get all my protein from food. But I kind of realized the importance actually of maybe a shake before bed could actually be something that may just help, or when I wake up, or as a snack rather than biscuits and stuff. So I think focusing on that is going to be important. In terms of training, it's just about trying to create as much tension as possible, whether you do that doing really not really slow, but slowing down eccentric movements, doing pauses, using external loading. So people have said to me, I haven't got a weight at home, I haven't got anything. If you've got a partner or a kid at home or someone who's into this sort of stuff, like you can use that weight. And even people like, I was saying to someone the other day, like with rowing movements, they're like, how do I do rowing movements? And I was like, well, you've got a TRX, you've probably got towels, stuff like that. You can hook on things, but also don't forget you've got a partner potentially. You can hold, a towel for, you can do some pulls on it if they're strong enough to hold. Like there's loads of, you just got to be creative. I think people are just going to look to be creative. And the other thing I've sort of said to people this week is don't worry about taking rest days or worrying too much, because you're not going to train at intensity that's going to require you to need loads of rest days. So if you can be active every day and move, go and do that. Don't discount cardio as well. I think people get trapped in the I've got to weight train thing of like, to keep my muscle, I've got to weight train. Well, you could also do some cardio, some high intensity sprinting, some things like that are going to be helpful to some degree. I think don't worry too much about structuring training massively. I think it's just a case of moving through a full range of motion. You're not looking to, in my opinion, anyway, the next few weeks, you're not going to look at progressive overload as a huge thing, because it's like you've got maybe 2 light dumbbells, you've not got a huge barbell. Most people can leg press 200 odd kilos. It's like you're not going to be able to replicate that here. Like it's not going to happen. It's going to be trying to make it as fun as possible with what you've got available. But the other thing that I've said to people is to focus on another area of your physique or another area of training that you want to improve. So I have a lot of clients who say to me like, I want to be more mobile. I want to be able to do deeper range squats. I'm like, right, well, you've got 3-4 weeks where you can do some mobility every single day, so that when you go back to the gym, you are in a position to be able to do more of that stuff, which is going to lead to increased progress in the future if you can get better range of motion. So actually thinking about switching your training focus can be something that's really good. And it's helped a lot of my clients get into the mindset of actually I can still improve my training, even though I haven't got loads and loads of weights. And I think people seem to forget that training isn't just about weight. It's also range of motion as well. And I think people have got a great opportunity here to really focus on that, because how many of us are ever going to get 3 to 4 weeks potentially, let's say, of focused mobility training? Not many of us would have every single day, half an hour to an hour potentially for some people, to do that every single day. And I don't think many people are going to do it, but I guarantee you 3 to 4 weeks of doing that, if it meant your range of motion improved on a lot of your leg movements and you trained then for a year for an increased range of motion, you're going to see better progress. So people are looking at the short term, what can I do for these 2 or 3, 4 weeks? And they're panicking. And I'm looking at it going, yeah, but you can actually train now to get better progress for the next year if you actually thought longer term about it.
Yeah.
So things like that can be useful, but also a lot of bodybuilders and a lot of people I know who train really, really hard, I've sort of said to them, look, there's an opportunity to give your body a bit of a break from the sheer amount of loading. If you've got any aches and pains, any niggles, don't be afraid to take some time off, because a lot of people put a lot of strain through their back, through their hips. And it's an opportunity, if they're really big lifters, to kind of take some time out and fix some of those little niggles. I think people are focused too much on trying to constantly train more. And it's like, actually, why don't you try getting in a position where get a Theragun and you can align all your joints so you'll be fine, So yeah, that's kind of the approach I've kind of tried to take, because I think a lot of people who are bodybuilders, especially recreational bodybuilders, they're going to find it hard to recreate that intensity. So they're probably not going to enjoy it as much. So you might do the bare minimum just to create some tension if you've got the ability to do that. But my suggestion would be to try and think about those sorts of things and think a bit more outside the box of something else you want to improve upon in your physique or in your movement. Movement literature, let's call it, the ability to, I suppose, expand that and think about what you can do. I think that would be helpful from what I see in most gyms. I'm very helpful for a lot of people to increase their range of motion on some movements. But I think trying to recreate what you have in the gym is nigh and impossible. So don't try, because you're just going to get frustrated. Except it's not going to be as optimal.
Yeah,
and just try and adapt.
Yeah, no, that's really useful. I think the mobility and sort of focusing on a different area is really sort of something interesting, something I've actually been thinking about. With doing,
because in 4 weeks you can do a lot. With mobility, it is something that you need to do daily to see that sort of change and progression. And I think we're in a Groundhog Day now. It's going to be for 3 or 4 weeks. Every day is going to be the same. And I think you will, if you see those videos of people, right, who set up a camera in the same place every day, and they do it, don't they? They do day 1 to like day 100 of just stretching or whatever, and you see them literally getting better and better. And I think you could do that if you just set your camera up in the same place and like on these mobility drills, and you see how much you improve. Once you've done that for 4 weeks, it will then only take you to do it like 10 minutes a day to maintain that, or 10 minutes every other day to maintain that. It's just not many of us have ever got the time to do 30 minutes to an hour for 4 weeks in a row. And yeah, I've been really trying to look at positives in all of this sort of stuff. And I think that's one thing that people are saying to me is like, previously, I don't have time to do that. I don't have time. I'm like, guess what? You just got given a shitload of time on your hands. So give it a go. Yeah.
Awesome. No, that's really good. Cool. So I think that brings us to the end. So Dan, before we close, do you want to tell everyone where we can find you?
Oh, where can you find me? Well, on YouTube, it's Biceps and Banter. If you could subscribe to that, would be great. It always helps. And then on Instagram, I'm at Dan Biceps Banter. Where else am I? Oh, I do a podcast with Tom as well, which is called Push Pull Legs. How long have we been doing that? I think we've been doing that since I've been online training, actually. So I think we're in like 200 episodes or something stupid.
Wow.
So there's a lot to go back and listen to on there. But again, it's a bit more lighthearted. Bit of training, bit of nutrition. We don't take ourselves too seriously either. Tom's an in-person PT, and he works in Third Space in London. Is quite high up there, so gives a different perspective on things, having the online in-person thing. Don't really use Facebook anymore, but obviously if anyone wants to add me, feel free. You can find Daniel Meek on there somewhere. I don't know how many of them there are. But yeah, YouTube would be the best place, because that's probably where we put most of our sort of better content.
Great. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on, mate. I really do appreciate it. And guys, thank you if you've made it this far, thank you. And we will catch you on the next episode. Bye.